Welcome to Spotlight on Small Caps. Every week we take a ramble through the world of stocks beyond the JSE's top 40, and this week a slightly different format for the program in that we're going to profile two small cap companies out with results recently, and they are RBA Holdings and Ububele Holdings. And joining me now in studio is AJ Rothman, the CEO of RBA Holdings. AJ, thanks very much for coming through.
Hi, Julieta.
So you came out with results last night, and before we talk about the financials, you've been in the job for 6 months. You were brought in to try and restructure a few things. So what have you spent the last 6 months working on, and how has RBA's strategy changed in that period?
I think there's, when we met 6 months ago, we said that the key focus for us is going to be to reduce debt, and in particular to reduce short-term debt, and in that way de-risk the business. And so we've really been focusing on what strategies do we need, not just in the short term, but also going forward that are sustainable, that's going to change our operating model so that we actually get a lot more cash generative business.
Okay, well, before we talk about the debt and the kind of interest that you've had to pay, what is the RBA operating model, also for those people who aren't very familiar with the company, and how has it actually morphed in the last couple of months? Because well, I'll let you tell us.
Okay, well, we essentially have had historically two different areas that we focused on. One is what we call Res 1 houses. We sell houses to people who are able to get a bond. So end user bank financing is a very important part of the model, and we help our clients to get end user financing. And then we essentially sell them a built-in package. And that package consists of land, and then on top of that they basically choose their house from a number of plans that we have, may make some additions and changes, and then we'll go and build that house and transfer it to them. Okay. And then the other side of the business that we've now made some changes in is the rental side of the business.
So historically, what had you been doing on the rental side?
Okay, so over the last couple of years, since the downturn really and the recession, end user finance was very difficult for clients to get. And so what the management at the time did was they thought that people need a house over their heads, so if they're not buying, then you're probably renting. And so they thought that they would focus on building a rental pool. And so they'd done a number of projects where they were basically renting property that we owned to tenants, and in that way trying to build a business.
So you owned the pool of property, yes, and then you would rent it out.
Yes.
Now you've shifted focus where you're actually going to sell those properties to other people to rent out, so they have maybe the hassles of renting it out. Is that how it's changed? Yes.
I mean, we need to generate cash as a business, and the problem with the rental model is it does generate cash, but only in the very long term. The annual cash flows essentially that you get from rental tend to cover the interest cost on the loans that you have against those properties. So it's not a very cash generative business, that. And so we have approximately 1,600 opportunities to provide rental accommodation. And so rather than own those properties ourselves, there are big players in the market who are building large rental books, sometimes hundreds of properties that these particular entities own. And so they're the experts at that, and we're working now in partnership with some of those players to actually take land that we own, build rental units on that, and sell it to them.
Who are those players, AJ?
Well, the person that we sold the first transaction we've done is on Protea Glen. We've got 148 units there, and we sold that to a company called Satik, who are quite a big player in the inner city rental market, and also now in student accommodation. So that's one of the big players. That's the party we did the first transaction with. Okay,
so you sell the land, but then you build the houses, so you get the income for that.
Well, in this case, we basically, because of the previous strategy, they've already gone quite a long way. We're finishing those units now in this next month, and so that property with all 148 units will be transferred to Satik at the end of this month.
So the land, owning land and using that for your developments, yes, that must obviously be a key factor for RBA's development. Do you have enough, or do you have to go out and buy new properties? How does that all work?
Okay, so we have one of our directors, Barry Stachman, who's one of the founding members of the company. He has very good relationships in the industry, and I think also with the refreshing of the organization with the new team, Barry used to be the COO. He only focuses now on building our business and land opportunities. So we get land in three different ways. Sometimes we just get what we call an allocation agreement, so we work with another land developer. They own the land, and we simply then help them sell the land plus the top structures which we then build. So that's one way. We also have occasions where we take an option on land, and then we do have occasions where we buy it outright. But our balance sheet doesn't always support the direct purchase of land.
And I suppose especially now, you've got before we went on air, talking about debt of about 260 million
Yes.
rand, and that is one of the things that you really want to reduce.
Yes.
Do you actually want to wipe out that debt completely?
Look, I think there's always a level of gearing that we're going to need in this business. When we do large projects, the key thing for me is that we match our funding to the projects we're doing. So we get development finance that we can take a piece of land, we can put in the infrastructure and the services. That's going to require a certain amount of debt. And certainly where we are building 148, these 1,600 units we want to do on the affordable rental side, we're going to need debt. So it's about having the right type of debt. We don't want so much short-term debt, and it's about having it matched to our projects.
Another issue that you've had to rejig is the sales, and actually we've spoken about that already. I see that you have retrenched a large portion of your sales force. You've brought in a new head of sales. So are they now actually going to have to go and sell RBA homes, and that's going to be one of the features of the turnaround?
Yes, look, that was always the key, or that was always the core business for RBA, was selling individual homes to people who get bank finance. So what we've done there is we've really started to try and say, what is the clients want? We're really trying to build a much more client-centric model where we give clients a lot more information. And we do surveys of our clients when they move into houses, and one of the key things they said to us was that information is really important to them. If you think about it, I would say that probably 90% of people buying houses from us, it's their first home that they're purchasing. And so we're trying to make sure that we are the housing market player, that if someone wants to buy a house, they come and speak to us because they can trust us and we're going to give them the right information.
Okay, so that's one area of focus. Just very quickly before we end the segment, your financials, your revenue was up 29%, operating profit though dropped quite significantly, and you made a headline loss per share of 0.88 cents.
Yes.
Is that likely to turn around in the next financial year? Will we see better metrics from RBA?
So the new team's been there 3 months. We didn't really have much of an impact on these. We've taken a number of one-off knocks in these financials now. I think this next 6-month period is going to be a transition period, but I'm really positive. We had a very good session with the whole organization yesterday. I think the company's really energetic now to go and deliver something better to the market, and I'm really hoping that by the end of the year we're starting to show that the new strategies are coming through and working. Okay,
great. Well, so do I, and hopefully we'll speak to you at that stage. AJ, thanks very much for coming through.
Thanks very much.
That's AJ Rothman, the CEO of RBA Holdings. We'll be back after the break talking to the CEO of Ububele Holdings, Bertie Klutter. Stay with us.